good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Ogbanje Joseph. So, today we're going to be talking about the tactics used by pressure groups to influence the policies and programs of government. So, there are different ways in which the pressure groups can press home their points. Some of those practices are as follows. Number one, lobbying. Now, what is a lobby? Lobbying is the tactical way of seeking favor from the government. Now, in doing this, the pressure groups use the most influential officials of the state, to press home their points. Now, lobbying that is used by pressure groups is one of the effective strategies, you know, used by many pressure groups, to seek favor from government and its officials in a modern democratic society. So that is number one. Number two is election. Now, you know, pressure groups do not contest election. However, you know, their positions themselves, you know, um, they do not actually contest election, but they sponsor and support candidates, okay, in an election. Now, they attend meetings of political parties, and they also make financial contributions, to political parties so that they can easily penetrate the government when it comes to power. They embark on political education from time to time. However, they do not actually contest election to seek for power. Now, what is here, what is there is that political party, pressure groups, once they support a particular candidate, they do that for the purposes of actually getting such a candidate, if he wins election, to attend to their needs, to their yearnings and aspirations. Okay, so during elections, some of them are actually very active in supporting a particular candidate, because they know that at the end of the day, such candidates, if he wins election, is actually going to attend to their needs. Okay, so how do they support? Sometimes they sponsor such a person, they give financial contributions, and they give moral support as well. Okay, so that is election. Then number three is the mass media. Now, pressure groups use the mass media to influence government policy. Now, the media, like the electronic, media, which includes radio, television, and all of that, and the print media, which includes, newspapers, bulletins, newsletters, handbills, and all of that, and even the social media also, is a veritable tool used, by pressure groups. They also make their views known through press conferences where they clearly highlight their grievances and make special appeal to the government, to meet their yearnings. Okay, so that is actually, for the mass media. Now, the next one is letter writing and petition. Now, one of the ways in which pressure groups, influences or influence the government policies and program is letter writing and petition. Now, pressure groups, write letter, of petition against either a government official or either a government official who is recalcitrant or an arm to another government, to another arm of government. For example, pressure groups can write a petition against the executive to the legislature or even to the court for consideration of certain policies. So they can write letter against a political office holder, or write letter against an arm to another arm. Okay, so that is actually that. The next way in which pressure group actually influences the policies and programs of government is mass propaganda. Propaganda is the act of twisting information. Now, pressure groups can twist and exaggerate certain actions of government for the public to be wary of. Now, by so doing, they draw attention to their plight for urgent solution. Now, the reason for this mass propaganda is to whip up sentiment, is to actually buy loyalists to themselves so that they can actually be looked at, okay, as people that have been witch hunted, innocently. People that have been, fought, even when they don't have the power to even fight back, and all of that. So they actually embark on mass propaganda for the purpose of the public to actually, look at their plight, look at their plight for urgent solution. Another point is that they use adverts, pamphlets, and leaflets. Now, pressure groups can decide to print pamphlet and leaflets, including sponsoring a paid advert, to make sure that their voices are heard by both the government and the public. Okay. Now, another point they use to actually influence the policies and programs of government is strikes and boycott. Now, strikes and boycotts are tactics used by pressure groups to achieve their aims and objectives. Okay. Now, this is a process where the group decide, to stay at home from work and or stage a walkout of meeting with the government representatives. All of these all of these tactics and techniques are used by pressure groups to register their voice on certain actions and inactions of the government. Okay, so the next point that they actually use, tactics they use to influence government, is dialogue. Now, this is a formal discussion. Dialogue is a formal discussion between representatives of government and pressure groups. Now, the groups can also have a round table discussion with the government to reach a consensus on certain burning issues, which is the most democratic way of registering and airing one's mind in a civilized world. Now, but where dialogue fails, okay, violent confrontation is inevitable. So dialogue is actually one of the tools or techniques used by the pressure groups to actually achieve their point. The next point is demonstration and protest. Now, demonstration or protest could be used, and it may be peaceful or violent. Now, pressure groups use that to mobilize support from members and the public as well. Now, demonstration and protest discussed here is a peaceful type, because peaceful demonstration most times is more potent than violent one, and government tends to act fast, especially when it has popular, as in the case of January 1, 2012, okay, and of course the NSAS protest, okay, of 2020, against the removal. Of course, we have the January 1, 2012 against the removal of subsidy, and then in 2020, which is against police brutality. Now, the last point, the last tactics or techniques that is used by pressure group to influence government is violence. Now, when all the other options fail, confrontation or violence is inevitable. This is common, okay? This is common if the government takes the laws into its hands by cracking down on the group with impunity. By way of retaliation, the groups may decide to turn it into violence, which may consequently, end up in revolution. So those are the tactics used by pressure groups to actually influence government. Pressure groups are not toothless bulldogs. They are there to actually fight for for their members. They are there to fight for the public. They are there to influence the government's policies and programs. Thank you very much.